what we do and with our team is if you tell us, hey, I'm looking to buy a car, we stop talking about what we're selling you. We're going to pivot over to let's make sure you're buying the right thing, right? Let's make sure that it has the right options that you're looking
Dude,
for.
that's crazy, man. Welcome everyone to Unwrapping Xcare with Xcelerate Auto. This is John from Tesla Owners of Silicon Valley. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to bring on our special guest, but I know it's a special time of season, so we thank you for giving us your listening ears this week. I hope you all are having a great run into your holiday season. But let's welcome Milad from Xcelerate. How's it going, man?
Hey, good, man. Nice to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time. I know you guys are busy. Always a lot happening in the world of Xcare, it feels like. But just a quick introduction. So Xcelerate, and actually, Milad, you worked at Tesla, but more importantly, Xcelerate, you guys are the first EV warranty. But why don't you just kind of go into what is Xcelerate, kind of a little bit about maybe your background and the history of where you guys are today, and then we'll get into some of the awesome things that you guys are up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to. So Xcelerate as a company, we're a leasing and financing company. So we were actually, we just crossed our 10-year anniversary, actually. It started in 2014. Thank you. Not a lot of businesses make it to after 10 years. So and we're still growing. So we love it. But so Xcelerate, we're a leasing and financing company. We specialize in commercial leasing. We work with Tesla as a third-party lessor. So they refer a lot of people over to us for people that are trying to put a vehicle under their business. In fact, that's kind of how it all started. So the CEO and founder of Xcelerate, KJ Gimbel, which he was on your live stream last time, he actually started with facilitating the very first leases for Tesla before Tesla had the ability to actually perform that, right? So dating back all the way to the first Model S deliveries in 2012. So that's kind of still to our core today. We do a lot of leasing and financing. We're a fleet manager as well. We have a lot of cars out there that are on our side. And then as you mentioned, I was at Tesla. That's how KJ and I know each other, because we worked with each other. I was just in Tesla. He was outside as a partner of ours. And doing a lot of cool stuff, right? We had to just answer yes into Texas, and people were like, hey, can I finance this? Can I lease this? I would hit up KJ and be like, hey, can you help us out? Because we can't say no to a customer right now. And he would help us answer yes. And that's really how it all started. So
that's it's like the Staples button where it's like,
yeah,
yes.
Exactly. And then, I went on to help start the used vehicle and like the trade-in program. And, we started with non-Tesla trades. So we needed to find dealers that would buy the car from us. And once again, it was, hey, KJ, can you help us out? Right. So we still have to do that to our core. And in 2018, that's when him and I started working together, and we started looking at developing Xcare. And kind of the core of it is we were obviously dealing with a lot of lease returns. We were thinking like, do we resell these? Do we start kind of a retail side of this with inventory, with all of our EV inventory? And at that same time, I mean, it went from, this was back in 2018, it went from just a few dozen in the independent resale market, maybe to like 100, to all of a sudden like a couple thousand, like very quickly.
Wow.
And we were talking to a bunch of dealers that were reaching out to us, asking us just like, hey, can you help us pull options on this? I don't even know how to sell it, right? What is it? So there was just a lot of, everyone was just scrambling to figure out, is this an opportunity that they should be capitalizing on? And in our mind, it was like, we need to develop some value add. We need to help people get into this. And from my experience on the remarketing and the Tesla remarketing side, it was always, well, we're not going to buy a lot of customers and a lot of potential owners. They didn't want to buy a car if it wasn't under warranty or had some sort of protection. It was new to them. Although it was used, it was new to them. So that's when we started working on building Xcare. So we launched that in early 2019, and then we decided, you know what, let's do it differently, right? We're going to build this all ground up specifically around for electric vehicles. We're not going to look at any other car. These are the componentry that we understand. We understand where the vehicle technology is going. We understand the serviceability right now. We understand how Tesla, soon to be Lucid, Rivian and Lucid at that time, to like how their service models are going to work, which the traditional world doesn't really work. And then we just took all the bad stuff about the legacy warranty product.
That's always the bingo card.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
right.
All the crap that they're doing wrong.
Yeah, all the crap that they're doing wrong. Let's make it the highlight point of this product, right? Like, let's really and if we're gonna do this, we have to make it where we're really proud of it. We're building up the value of the community, and we're empowering dealers and resellers, but also, if you bought your car direct, we can sell it to you direct, right? So, developing an online experience that's super transparent. There's no robocalls. We don't harass you, right? None of that stuff. In fact, early on when we started developing, we really looked at ourselves. It's like Apple Care, right? You don't think too much about how you buy it. It's all about when it's time to use it. It's just so seamless and so simple. And really from the beginning, that was the whole entire point of Xcare, because Xcare is about peace of mind, plain and simple. So we need to figure out how can we enhance the experience of when someone needs to use it, right? And that's been our focus since day one. That's been our focus, it's still now, and that's what we work on every single day to make sure that the newest technology features, whatever we can do for us, automation, connected vehicles, we always try to put that in the ownership experience for our members, and it's been growing ever since. And thanks to the community for being very supportive. But it's been a great ride.
Yeah, no, I mean, I bought my warranty. I think it was, 2021, 2022. But I remember just having that, because I think at the time, Tesla did not have, I think they only even offer like a short one now. But long story short, there's, with your Tesla, there really is no maintenance. But once you get out of that, first, the warranty service, like, you kind of are like, well, what's next? What if something happens that, because I think these things can also be expensive. So I think having Xcelerate and because I was able to not only buy it, but also experience what the whole actual, like, opening up a ticket and kind of going through that whole process. And it was seamless, but I still got the Tesla service. So it's like, I think that not only gave me the peace of mind, but it still gave me the whole Tesla experience. Like, it's not like, I had to call you guys and the whole process was kind of being handled through you. It was like, contact you, and then it's like the rest of it is essentially being still handled through Tesla, and then there's some small communication there.
Exactly. Warranties aren't sexy, but they're important whenever you need them.
Exactly. But tell us, I mean, I can only imagine, you guys have some crazy stories, but just tell us, what are your average customers buying from Xcelerate or an Xcare? Like, what are the terms? What are the type of things that they're looking for the most?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where we get a lot of our customer questions, right? So people call in every day and being like, hey, just help me understand what other people are doing, and like, what should I be doing? And we don't try to sell like Tesla, a lot of us are actually former Tesla. So we like to educate. We don't like to sell. We like to tell you the good and the bad, what we think you should know and what you should probably avoid even when it comes to us, right? So, and we get a lot of questions like, what about CarShield, right? So they do like the monthly payment side. It's like every month you pay into it. It's kind of like an auto insurance structure, right? So I think if a lot of people are not familiar, think of like your auto insurance. You're paying in every month, and then so there's really no value until a claim or until something happens. Then you reap the benefit of it. But whatever you don't use, so if you paid into it for 5 years and nothing happened, you don't get anything back, right? And that's kind of the core difference. But there's no value in it. It's kind of just like wasted out there. So unlike an auto insurance structure, with Xcare, it actually has value, right? So whenever you're buying a term, I like to put our members in a couple different buckets, right? So we have a lot of members that buy Xcare when they're still under warranty. And then we have members that wait until they're already outside of factory warranty and then buy Xcare. So let's just kind of separate the two, because everyone's going to be in a different situation, but you're probably going to be in one of those two situations, right? So if you are if you currently under factory warranty, our average Xcare member is buying a 7-year term, right? They're going well past the factory warranty. That means maybe you had 2 years left on your factory warranty. So 7 years would take you 5 years past that, right? So so that's what most people are actually doing when you're under factory warranty. If you're already out of factory warranty, you're actually opting in for like a 5-year on average. So there's a couple year variance, and the reason why that's happening is the cost is a lot lower if you buy that 7-year ahead of time. So as an example, that 7-year option, if you're under factory warranty, costs roughly $3,800, right around there. That 5-year, when you're out of factory warranty, is costing $4,600, $4,700. So a lot of our people, a lot of our members, if you're buying it while you're in factory warranty, you're typically saving up towards about $1,000 to get it ahead of time. And the reason why I'm saying it has value, and let's take that 7-year customer, right? They bought a 7-year term. You own that vehicle, say 3.5 years, then you decided, you know what? I want a Cybertruck. I'm going to trade this in, right? I'm going to trade this in. I'm going to upgrade. And say, let's just hypothetically, you didn't have any claims in those 3.5 years. You have still another 3.5 years to go. You get 50% of your money back.
Wow.
That's how the cancellation rate, it has value. So whatever you don't use, you get back. So for a lot of customers, it's like, okay, well, if I had a lot of claims, great on you. Right? That means it works. So that's perfect.
You can try to forge that.
Right. But at least it's there, right? I mean, Xcare is, the point is to be free and to have that worry-free situation, right? So if it does happen, you're good. And if it doesn't happen, at least you can get some of that money back if you decide to sell it or trade it. And if you sell it privately, you can transfer it. So you can even negotiate with the new buyer and say, hey, I got this warranty on it. It should increase resale value. We have most people that sell privately actually transfer.
Yeah. No, that's I think that's what also is not only very attractive, but makes it unique. And I think it's also too, I think someone had made a comment, but it's like, I think that's the one thing that makes it different, especially when you have kind of like the test working at Tesla, that DNA built into you. It's like, at the end of the day, you're here to educate. The product is going to sell itself. And I think that's what makes Xcelerate such an attractive option. And things like having value, even if you don't use it and you sell the car, being able to get that money back or a portion of it back is huge.
Yeah, and not to scare anybody, because I don't like to enable fear in any of this. We all own our cars. We all have Teslas. Like, these are phenomenal vehicles. But it's important to know, like, if you've never had a service outside of warranty, what are we normally seeing, right? I think we're probably the best experts in this because we're doing this every single day for many years now. And the average claim that we're seeing is close to $1,300 now. So, and that doesn't differ a whole lot between the models. Like Model 3 is $1,100, X is roughly $1,500, Y is actually surprisingly a little bit higher than 3, so around like $1,400, $1,500, and Model S is roughly like $1,250. It's a little bit lower than Model X, but so that's average, right? On average, when you're bringing the car in, that's what we're paying out. Now, it doesn't mean that that's happening all the time. It's not like frequency is high, but if something happens like Apple Care, it like if you break a phone, you simply just replace the components. That's pretty much how these vehicles are built. Your charger goes out, you get a new charger, right? You get a new power conversion system. So that's kind of how it works.
I don't know if you want to go into all of these details, but what I was going to say is, I think, as you said, you guys live and breathe it. You guys see the good, the bad, the ugly. So what would you say is like, when are the whole sexy lineup, when are they starting to see the need for, like, what's the vehicle life cycle? And then if you want to throw in there, what is the top thing you're seeing?
Yeah. So top things we're seeing is suspension related, right? And I think most of us probably know that, right, at this point. Yeah. So if you haven't had control arms replaced, you probably will need to soon. So suspension's number one. If you're a Model S owner, door handles first, door handles second. They just go out. But they're cheap and easy to replace, so it's really not that big of a deal. It's not a huge issue. On older cars, like the say 24 older Model S's and older Model X's, MCUs are still, kind of an issue where it's like the leakage or seepage of like the adhesive underneath that we see that a lot. But honestly, it really ranges. Oh, and I'm sorry, and AC issues. Anything dealing with AC, which could be a whole different grouping of a lot of different things. It could be your heater core goes out. It could be your refrigeration line has a leak. It could have been your AC compressor's down or your condenser went out. And there's a lot of different things. But we normally see that, especially when you need it most. So a lot of customers in the South, like for instance, in Texas, for as an example, that happens in the dead of summer. So it's important to kind of think ahead here and get it looked at whenever you don't need it, because when you need it, it's not a fun experience. And we can't, it's just the nature of weather.
Yeah. Well, I do know also too, as we, as I think Teslas are becoming more like mainstream, when you have crazy stats like the Model 3 over a 5-year average cost of maintenance is cheaper than the Toyota Corolla, which has been kind of like royalty for the past 2 decades. When you start getting those stats, I think people are going to start migrating over. And that's the great thing is like, Tesla's built such a great product, but with that, more and more use cases are going to happen. And so what we are seeing, and maybe you could go a little bit into this, like what are the common use cases? Like, for example, ride sharing. Is that,
Yes.
you see a lot of that? And then how does that relate?
Yeah, we're seeing a huge spike in rideshare customers. So a lot of people, and I think that's and kudos to the Uber team, who is really putting a huge focus in getting their drivers to drive EVs, right? So there's more EVs showing up in their Uber marketplace. There's more opportunity for rideshare customers, Lyft or Uber, to get inside of an electric vehicle. The numbers are more in their favor, right? In your favor if you're a Lyft or an Uber driver. You really bring down that total cost per mile. So we saw a huge spike in Lyft and Uber drivers more recently, reaching out to us to say, hey, I drive 40,000 miles a year in this, right? Way more than the average person. So they need special programs and products I care more about mileage than I do time, because mileage is what's most important to me, because I'm driving 40
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And what we were kind of surprised of is a lot of these rideshare customers, these Lyft and Uber drivers, they really mostly care about the total cost, right? I just want the cheapest thing that covers the battery and the drive unit.
Yep.
That's their biggest focus, right? Because imagine if you're a Lyft or Uber driver and your battery goes out and you're outside of warranty, how many rides is it going to cover to cover a $17,000 replacement job, right? And you're going to have to figure out like, well, I got to go outside of Tesla or get something else done, maybe somewhere else to make it cheaper. But if you do that, you don't get that 40 or 50,000 mile replacement warranty whenever you get a new battery, right? So now you're still on the hook. So there's still exposure there. So so what we developed is a standalone option for just battery and drive unit, right? And we do allow for Lyft and Uber. So if you're a Lyft or Uber driver, reach out to us, because we have things that are literally made kind of specifically for you to take your battery and drive unit warranty really far past, double up from the original factory. And it also, one of the biggest questions that they ask is, does it cover degradation, battery capacity? Like, what happens if all of a sudden, I was normally charging up to able to do 100%, but now I'm down to like 60%, right? So what we built in our program, in our contract, is making sure that we have the same capacity metric as factory. So even at the term, it still must maintain that above 70%. And if it's lower, then you can make a claim for a replacement, right? So that is something that we stuck true from factory.
Yeah. Well, no, that's awesome that you guys are able to see what the use cases are, and because they are a different type of breed of driver.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to be, putting a bunch of miles. What do you like? Are you seeing right now from that? I mean, obviously this is potentially fairly new. I mean, you got 1-2 years where you're starting to see a huge ramp. Are you starting to see them, like, are they making more claims, potentially more than an average driver? Obviously they're on the road all the time, but what are you seeing as far as on the Tesla side as more miles are being put on the vehicle?
Yeah, I think I would say these cars are pretty good, right? I mean, like I think they're really built to last, I would say, for the most part, right? The later generation models they're built a little bit more simplistically, right? There's less components, so there's less things that can go wrong. But like I said previously, the frequency of failure is not high. It's not like comparative to like a gasoline vehicle that is similar in nature, right? It's just when something happens, the cost of replacement is significantly higher than that of like a gasoline vehicle. That's just the crucial difference. So it's not like it's happening all the time or repetitive nature, and it's not something that happens to everybody, right? So yeah, as they're driving more, we're not seeing a lot of. And what we're really all happy about, and I think owners should be happy about too, even including our Xcare members, is we're not seeing battery failures or driving failures left and right. That's not happening, right? It does happen. It's not to say it
Yeah.
doesn't happen at all,
Let's not
but it's
paint a
not
false picture.
happening. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if
Well,
you have Xcare, awesome, right? Because
yeah.
therefore you don't have to worry about that. But and I think even in your scenario, right? Did you have a battery failure? Was it a drive unit failure?
It was the drive unit failure.
Yeah.
I did have I mean, it was under warranty, but I think my battery failure was potentially before I think you guys launched it,
Yeah,
which was a
right.
huge deal. But thankfully it was under. But yeah, I mean, so the different and maybe I would assume that my charging habits were probably similar to Uber drivers, where they're just supercharging a lot. And so I was doing it. And again, maybe it was just a little bit older, but it was on a 2018 Model X. And I think I just fried the battery. I mean, it just literally it just failed completely. So,
Yeah, and it happens, right? We have a
yeah.
Model Y. It failed at like 16,000. Thankfully,
Wow.
it was still under factory warranty. But
Yeah.
and what we're seeing is the failures typically happen whenever they're younger.
Yep.
It's not so much like if you drove a couple 100,000 miles on it already, like I think you might be pretty good. It's just the capacity that you got to look at, and depending on where you are in the country and different climates, different types of heat exposure. The HVAC, there's a climate control system on the battery, but it has to work overtime, and a lot of those kind of wear down on it over time. But we don't like selling based on fear here. We think these vehicles are amazing, right? We want more people. We're
Yep.
trying to help drive adoption, not trying to scare people into buying Xcare, right? We want
Well,
people to make the right decision with the vehicle
the
first.
thing is that even if you have the best built product, there's going to be those situations that it's going to fail. So it's like that's the important thing that I personally had when I bought Xcare. It was just that peace of mind, and more importantly, there's value. Like now, my dad has my old Model X, and he still has the warranty. So it's just like I get to pass that. As I don't know if you mentioned this, but the ownership transfers with the vehicle too. So that's another big win. But as you know, obviously, so we are, a Tesla owners enthusiast group. There's going to be a lot of questions. So I think like basic things like, what are maybe some of the top questions you may have, but I have a list of questions, maybe top questions that I think our owners would just want to know basic answers to, that, those kind of top things that come to mind.
Yeah. So really, I think I touched on it a little bit before, but what's the criteria to cover battery, right? So that's a big focus for a lot of people. And I also, to be very clear, a lot of you are if you're trying to buy into a EV right now or a Tesla, it's probably your first one, and it's probably a used one, right? And that's the reality for most folks, which is awesome, right? Love to see that. So the criteria to cover a battery is one, just straight failure. Right, one of the packs failed. Usually you have like power, your charging is being reduced, and then like I mentioned earlier, capacity. Right, we do have technical diag that be able to understand what the capacity is of the battery pack. So if you ever feel like that is the case, we have ways to actually check on it and make sure, and even give you a report so you can see it yourself. But yes, we have capacity in our language along with just straight failure. A lot of people ask, well, and this is also, I'm going to combine this with like a new release, but hey, $3,700 or $4,300 or $4,400, that's a lot of money up front, right? Which
Yep.
we totally understand. That is not a small chunk of change, right? So it's like, hey, how can I make this easier, right? How can I buy Xcare and maybe pay it off over like 12 months? So we're happy to say that we announced a payment plan. We actually had it in the background, off menu and off site for about a year. just to kind of get the feel for it, making sure everything makes sense and if it works properly. And it does. So we actually now have it on our website. So if you go on, actually xcare.com, we now own that. So if you go to xcare.com and just plug in your vehicle information without giving any of your contact info, right? You can just see the terms. And then you can even switch over to payment plan and see exactly what that would cost. It's no interest. It's same as cash, just elongated over 12 months. It's 20% down, 11 equal payments. So there's no penalty. There's no application process. It's just an easier way to buy. And that is one of the ways that, once again, just another example of how we deliver to the EV community, because that's what a lot of people were asking us for a very long period of time.
Well, one thing I just love is the fact that a couple of things, and this is why I love, you and KJ and what you guys are building, is because like just simple things, right? Like, let's say I want to go and just look at, get a quick run on my, my credit, or just see how much like of a home loan. You type in your information, you type in everything, and then you get spam for decades and all this other stuff. What you just said is, you just need to type in your vehicle information and it'll spit out something, versus selling your soul. And then, so that's one. But two, I just want to highlight as well the fact that you got the payment plan is huge, right? So also to shout out to my Tesla holders, they may not want to sell some Tesla or they may not want to
would not recommend it.
Exactly. Not financial advice. No, but it's one of those things where, that it's all about options and being able to make decisions. And so I think having this payment plan is going to be huge. And, so kudos to you guys on launching that. I think you guys are unlocking something huge. And then also too, as you said, if, depending on the amount of claims and things like that, if you decide to sell the car, you could potentially, it still has value at the end of it. So, or not at the end of it, but halfway through or 2/3 through, you can still make that happen. So I think that's a huge win, man. I think you guys really did unlock something.
Win for all of you, right? I think that is the most important part, and that's what we're here to do. That's our mission. Is we're here to deliver for EV owners and try to make their lives as easy as we possibly can in the ways that we can, whether it's for leasing or financing or with Xcare, the Xcare program. That's really to our core. Another thing that a lot of people ask us a lot of times is, hey, should I buy a shorter term now, or can I buy a shorter term now and a longer term later, whenever that shorter term is? So I want to be very clear with everybody, because we get this question almost daily from people. Technically, probably yes. Should you? Definitely not. You're going to be spending way more money. And once again, this is one of those examples that does it make us better to do that? Sure, but that's not going to be better for you, right? And it's not going to be better for the owner. So if you're trying to look for, it's like, well, a lot of people say, well, I don't know if I'm going to keep the car for 5 years. Just buy the 5-year term and then cancel it. If you actually do decide to sell it before then, and you'll get that proration back. If you buy a 2-year now and then a 3-year later, you're going to be spending maybe $2,000-$3,000 more than if you're just buying the 5-year ahead of time. Our pricing is on a matrix. The older the car, the higher the mileage, the higher the cost. So if you buy a 2-year now, then you buy a 3-year, after those 2 years, your car is now 2 years older. It has 2 years worth of more miles on. So that 3-year term is way more expensive in that future date. So like I said, it's going to save you a lot of money by not doing it that way. And we try to tell everyone, don't think of it that way, because you're just, you can, but you're going to be spending a lot more money.
Yeah. And that goes into the next question. So it sounds like, short term, you're obviously going to be paying a lot more upfront, especially if it's shorter. So buy it earlier when you purchase the vehicle, when it's newer. That will always be best. And then on the long tail, it'll be a little bit more expensive. What if there's people or members that, let's say, are starting to have an issue? Can they open or buy Xcare even now?
So we don't cover pre-existing conditions. So if you already have a problem, think of it like auto insurance, right? In this regard, not like the way that we were talking about earlier, but like similar to kind of auto insurance. If you got into an accident and you didn't have auto insurance, it is now too late, right? You kind of have to have it before something happens. So, but we do get a question that is something similar, which is, what if I had problems in the past and I got it fixed, right? Is it going to be covered? Yes. right? So if you had a problem with something and it got resolved and it's no longer an issue, and then you purchase Xcare, and then say a year later that same thing happened again or something similar, yeah, that would absolutely be covered as long as it got fixed, right? And that is,
Mhm.
and that's what's important. Now we leverage Tesla in this regard, right? So we're not the ones going in and looking at your service. So Tesla is usually always telling us what is the cause of failure, some of the background information. So and that's for transparency both for us and for you, right? So you also have it because a lot of people bought a used car and you don't know what the previous owner did. So that's not going to come back and hurt you. But if something is already wrong right now, get it fixed, get Xcare. So if it happens again, you'll be covered. But that's why we urge people get it sooner than later so you can get ahead of it because you kind of need to.
Yeah, and I love the use case. Like if you're in the market for a used Tesla, this is the best time when you get it to essentially buy Xcare, right? Because you don't know, well, especially if you're buying, in my opinion, I always recommend friends right now just because Tesla is still fairly new and unfortunately, you might go
Yeah.
to like a Dodge dealership and you might buy a Model 3, but they don't know what they're selling you at the end of the day. They don't know the history. They don't even have access to that information,
Right.
from my understanding. So the big thing is you want to protect yourself. If you maybe are getting a good deal, you want to make sure that you are getting Xcare. Also, too, same thing if you're buying Hertz, right? Like,
Right.
obviously, we know if you're renting a car, you know, sometimes they're punching it all the time. They're not handling it like they would their own car, right? And so it's important to make sure you're protected. So I think that, you brought up a really good use case because and actually you also shared an example of like what would give me peace of mind of sending a friend to go and buy their car from someone else other than Tesla. Because right now it's really hard to recommend you to buy a Tesla from directly from someone else other than Tesla.
Totally. Yeah, and so here's one of the things that we have been able to do. We have this awesome customer story. We actually posted up on our blog. It's on our socials too. We have a customer named Darren Hill. He gave us permission to use his name, so thank you, Darren.
Shout out to Darren.
Shout out to Darren. But Darren reached out to us. He's never owned an EV before. He's never owned a Tesla. He's former military, and thank you for your service, Darren. Darren means a lot to us over here at Xcelerate. And one of the things that he did is he called us. Hey, I'm looking to buy this car, and I'm looking for a possible warranty for it. What we do and with our team is if you tell us, hey, I'm looking to buy a car, we stop talking about what we're selling you. We're gonna pivot over to let's make sure you're buying the right thing, right? Let's make sure that it has the right options that you're looking
Dude,
for.
that's crazy, man. Look at
Yeah,
all these
because we care.
services, man.
Well, we care. And that's,
Yeah.
that's just free of charge. We just want to make sure that you are
Yeah.
doing this, you're making the right decision. So Darren cared, he loved the look of Model S, which I understand. That is a very soft place in my heart. I had the same Model S last year before I got the Cybertruck. I loved that car. But one of his priorities, I wanted to make sure it had FSD, right? He wanted to make sure it had FSD, and he bought a Plaid. He was looking for a Plaid. So one of our team members, Carrie, said, okay, well, let's send me the car that you're looking at. And then we asked the right questions and found out that the car was advertised as FSD, didn't actually have it.
Oh,
So
no.
he was about to buy a car that at
Yeah,
the time
that's
was, I believe,
horrible.
was still 10K, right? It was a
Yeah.
$10,000 difference, right? So now it's cheaper, but back then it was 10K. And so we told him, hey, doesn't have FSD. You're gonna have to buy it after the fact. It's gonna cost you another $10,000. And then not only did we just tell him that, we also scoured the inventory around the country that was close to him. We
Wow.
showed him options of a Plaid Model S, the ones that he was looking for, with FSD that we were able to confirm that actually had it. We texted him. We answered all the vehicle questions, just the product knowledge questions, and he bought the car, and then eventually bought Xcare afterwards, right? And once again, it wasn't about Xcare. It was about making sure that the customer and that this now amazing owner had a great experience during his buying process, even though we weren't even involved.
That's pretty crazy, man. I mean, I think that's going to be huge. So if you have family members now, like you can send them to Xcelerate just to kind of figure out what you're buying. You don't want to be buying a lemon.
Absolutely.
What about, I think this kind of goes into partially, what you guys launched in the past couple months, but people that want to own their cars for a long time, they just plan on keeping it for a long time. Especially, you're starting to see that. I see a lot of Model S owners, that bought it back in 13, 14, 15, and they're keeping it a long time. Is there a way to, pay for this? Like, what are the payment options if you've had the car a long time and you want to keep it even longer?
Yeah, you're talking about Xcare payment options?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So our payment plan is the same across the board. It's really easy, right? So when you go to our site, once again, you don't even have to give us a VIN, year, make, model, odometer, and then you can see all the terms that are best suited for you. And then we also ask how many miles you drive a year, because we need to know, the system knows, are you more time focused or are you more mileage focused, right? So, and we can show you options that are really geared specifically for you. And then from there, you'll see a total price. Don't get the sticker shock. You can just select a payment plan toggle. And what that does is it takes that number, it's 20% down in the first month, 11 equal payments for the rest of the year, and then years of peace of mind with Xcare, right? So it is, like I said, there's no additional cost, there's no interest, there's no additional fees, there's nothing hidden. You could do the math yourself to make sure to validate, trust but verify. Verify what we're saying is absolutely true, and we stand by that. But there's no additional cost. You're just paying it off in a 1 year time frame. And if you bought a 7-year Xcare, then after 1 year, you have 6 years of just ultimate freedom after that, even including that first year while you had it in the first place.
Yeah, no, that's incredible, man. I mean, I think that versatility, because like I said, it's as important as these, an extended warranty is, or really being protected, especially for your battery and powertrain, which is like pretty much the engine of the
Right.
it's important to have options and opportunities to figure out, how you can make that payment plan affordable to you, right? Not everyone can potentially fund, $4,000 or $5,000 or $3,000, whatever the amount is.
Totally. And you can still use a credit card, so you can still get the points every single month.
Exactly. Make sure you use United. No, I'm joking. But tell us a little bit. I think I want to get into. I know you talked a little bit about Antonio, but let's tell us a little bit about CarShield as well, and what that is.
Yeah, and we get a lot of people that reach out to us with CarShield. They see all the commercials. They see Ice Cube or Ice-T that's on there and pitching out CarShield. If you haven't seen one of these commercials, if you look into it, you'll see what I'm saying. But but they're obviously a large company, and they're one of the biggest out there. And what they do is you pay every single month. And I'm only saying this because we get this question every single day, right? We get this all the time from owners, as you pay a certain amount every single month, and then you essentially get like a new contract every single month in a way. It's subscription, right? So you subscribe to it, you're paying into something, but what happens is, and what is what we've heard, unfortunately, from some customers out there that have had to switch over to us, is I had a claim after 6 or 7 or 8 months or something like that, and then all of a sudden my cost for the warranty skyrocketed, and I wasn't able to cancel.
Like
and
dynamic pricing.
Right. It was like dynamic pricing. And then they can even, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they can even choose to cover you after certain claims or not. Right. So if you had a big claim, they can just boot you out. And now you're and now if let's say your car was it was older or higher mileage, you could now be outside the eligibility parameters to get any sort of coverage at that point. Right. So it leaves people in a vulnerable position. The business model really gears towards making money for the company rather than protecting the consumer or protecting the EV owner. And I think that's where we have this mission-based difference here, right? We do everything that's very customer-centric and customer first, and we walk back from there. We're not looking to be greedy. We're not looking to fill our pockets and feed off of customers. We're here to make sure that EV owners are having that amazing experience for years, right? Not just for the first few months until something happens. So with CarShield, if you're paying into something in subscription, there's no value in it. So if after a few months or a year, you have a large claim, your pricing can change. They can boot you out, and then you can't cancel and get any of that money that you paid into it back because it was month by month. And that's the core difference between us and them.
Yeah, that's amazing. A couple of quick questions from the audience. Here, Tesla Centennial, shout out to him. He's a awesome supporter. He's not sure if we cover this, but what is the difference between extended care offered by Xcare versus Tesla?
Yeah, it's not much different. We actually benchmarked the Tesla ESA when we first launched Xcare, and it wasn't to compete against the Tesla ESA. There was just a lot of people that couldn't buy the ESA or needed something more, right? And that was the key differentiator. So, for instance, if you didn't buy the car directly from Tesla, then you don't have the opportunity to buy that ESA, right? So if you bought it secondhand or you bought it used, if you didn't buy it within the original 4-year 50, that factory warranty, then you can't buy it any longer. So that is kind of that's one of the biggest difference. So there's a lot of exclusions. And then now the ESA's changed since we started. There used to be a 2-year and a 4-year option. Now there's just a 2-year and 25,000 mile option. So meaning that it'll never extend the battery coverage at all, or the drive unit, right? The battery and drive unit will never have a warranty extension within the ESA because it's too short. It's only a 2-year 25 after the original 4-year 50. So you're never crossing that 8-year standpoint. So it's always pretty short. So if people, like I said, like those Uber drivers and the Lyft and Uber drivers, if you're driving over 20,000 miles a year, a 2-year 25 isn't really going to help very much, right? So you need something a little bit more. And for people that I want to own the car for 6 years, not just 2, that's where Xcare comes in because we have a lot longer terms. So as far as coverage goes, they're going to be very, very similar. The only difference for us is because our terms are longer, we also cover that battery and drive unit for most people. And that's the difference.
And then one quick question too, just to clarify, I think for us, we obviously you're talking about this all day, but maybe other people. So let's say you do buy it, let's say the bumper to bumpers, 4 years, 50,000 miles. They decide to buy it in year 2. How does it actually work? Xcare, does that kick in immediately, or it's pretty much after the term, right? The bumper to bumper.
It starts when about 30 days after you purchase it. You won't start using it until you leave the factory warranty, right? So while you're still under factory warranty, you'll still leverage the factory warranty, right, through Tesla. But we also have roadside assistance and rental and trip interruption. So like for any reason, we actually have customers that are still under factory warranty that have used our roadside because they were in a remote area and Tesla wasn't able to supply a service as quickly as us. So you can always have that as a background option as well. But as far as just the core serviceability of it, or like what, who's paying for what, while you're under factory warranty, you're just going to be using the factory warranty. And then once you're out, there's no wait period. Immediately kicks in with Xcare if you have it. So, and the point is you're saving, like I said, for those people that are buying within factory warranty versus waiting out after, you're saving roughly $1,000, right? So you get it a lot cheaper if you know you're going to own this car for a really long time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's almost like, I think it's just educating people, like you just talking. It's like I've been I've had personal experience with it, so I know what it's like. It's not like I'm just trying to sell your stuff, but it's just your product sells itself, right? And I think the benefits are just clearly there. But talk to me again. You've shared some stories. We talked about Darren. Let's talk about Antonio.
Yeah. So I know we're in a Tesla owner's channel right now, but it's I think it's
No, we're VW.
But we built Xcare to cover all battery electric vehicles. We didn't just want to focus on one brand versus the others, right? We welcome more products out there, more models that have now been developed, and we love to see it, right? So Xcare is for all battery electric vehicles, not just Tesla. Obviously, Tesla is to our core, and we have a lot of personal feelings about it, and we love it so much. But we have a lot of Jaguar customers. We have a lot of Rivian customers. We have a lot of VW customers. So another really amazing story is Antonio. Antonio, once again, gave us permission to use his name. So thank you, Antonio, for letting us do so. Antonio's owned a few EVs prior, right? So this was not a person that just went into it. However, had if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was an e-tron prior that had a lot of unfortunate issues, and went away from the e-tron and went into an R1S. And he and his husband didn't really didn't want to go through all those problems that they just went through with the e-tron, right? They wanted to make sure they stayed protected, right? Because at the end of the day, Xcare is about freedom from worry, from stress, from uncertainty. So they started reaching out to us for their R1S, and they ended up buying it. And we didn't really, unlike Darren, we didn't help them buy the car per se. Because they already kind of picked out the vehicle that they really wanted to buy. But they drive a lot. They drive, I believe they drive close to 20,000 miles a year. So once they were outside of factory warranty, they had a fairly large claim. And I believe it was about $1,000, if I'm not mistaken, or close to that. Maybe it was a little bit more than that. And it was just seamless. It was easy. We were able to work around Rivian's service the similar way that we work around Tesla service every single day. And he was just overly thrilled and ecstatic that he goes, I knew that this was, you guys told me all day that you got your EV people, you're part of the community, and you really look after the ownership experience. But seeing it in real life and having a real claim and seeing how you were able to work around Rivian service, like, I'm just so happy that I bought this car, and now I'm great for so many years. And those are the type of stories that we love to hear.
Yeah, no, I think, like I said, I think it's you guys aren't just trying to sell and shill your product. It's really just, you're putting the customer first. And I think because you have, again, the experience of, obviously working at Tesla, and, a lot of the people that are at Xcelerate have been there as well, or not everyone, but just, you guys have that a part of your DNA. It just makes it easy. And, but yeah, I think I just wanted to say, first off, I think we're kind of getting to the top of the hour, but like, I think if you're thinking of, if you own a Tesla, if you own another EV, but if you own a Tesla, make sure you go and check out Xcare. It's really, really important. Xcare.com. Potentially use TOSV too if you want a discount as well. But the great thing about this is, what I love about Xcelerate, and I've known KJ and Milad for years now, is that, we're not here to try to sell you something. It's really go educate yourself, go verify. But also too, I think there are clear things of why someone would want Xcare. It's not only the payment options, you get the access to extended warranties, especially when you buy used vehicles. You can use them as an additional resource when you're buying a used car to see what you're getting into. Because like I said, I just learned something new today. It's now I can recommend friends to go and buy from other dealers, because they can come to you guys to find out what's going on with their car. Because that's the big unlock here, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, especially as we know, the engine of gas cars, the equivalent is, a battery and powertrain, and you can get all that covered. So make sure you buy it early on when you are just getting the vehicle, because you'll always save money versus the back end. But really, Xcelerate Xcare really can be a great option for you. I'll throw it to you if there's anything else that you want to just kind of close out with. But
yeah, I mean, I've been doing this in the EV space for 13 years now, right? And a lot of us are very similar in that. KJ's been doing it for 12. Carrie, Brent, Libby, we've all been doing it. And Dan, we've all been doing this for so many years, right? So our entire team, we are a wealth of knowledge. One of the things I tell people is, hey, actually, this is literally what I tell people sometimes that are in that bucket of, I'm trying to buy this car and I just need some tips and feedback. I'll say, how about next time you just call our general line, talk to somebody else, and let's see what they say, because we all have such a deep connection and such intimate knowledge when it comes to EVs in the industry. So do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are not here to sell you. We're here to educate. We're very friendly people. We love talking to people that are either have been an EV owner for a long time or about to be an EV owner soon. Ultimately, our main goal is to get more butts in EV seats. And we just want to make sure that first EV experience, we know that first ownership experience of driving an electric vehicle can make it or break it for the rest of your life. Yeah. So if you're with us, we're going to make sure that first experience is positive so you can stay an EV customer from there on out. And that's our goal.
Yeah, and I think that's also been one of the biggest issues that you've had with like Hertz, people renting a
Right.
Tesla, or even more importantly, let's say you don't rent a Tesla, and this is before the EV network was opened up or the supercharging network was opened up. I've heard of horror stories of people getting stuck at Electrify America. And so in the same way, when it comes to owning a Tesla, really, it's important to make sure that you have a great experience, and Xcelerate and Xcare will make sure that that happens.
Absolutely.
And again, the great thing is I can speak in saying all this, having had that experience. But make sure again, you go to Xcare. They're tagged on X. They're also, the website information is also in YouTube and Facebook if you're watching. Instagram, you'll probably just have to go to xcare.com. But thank you again for just dropping a lot of knowledge. I think a lot of your customer testimonials, and then also too, you guys are the expert. You're seeing the good and the bad, and some of those stories were really cool to unpack today. So thank you, Milad. Thank you, Xcelerate, for all that you're doing, because we know it's going to take a village to make this transition to a sustainable future.
Takes all of us. Yeah, no, I appreciate having me. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays to everybody. Thanks for jumping on. Thank you, John, for this. I mean, this is love seeing how big the community's getting.